Mr. and Mrs. Joey. I'm so glad that we were able to meet over this video chat. I know that our schedules are kind of busy, but I'm glad that we could make this work for our little parent-teacher conference. First, I just want to say how much I love having Joey in my class. He is so kind, so helpful, and so willing to do anything I ask. When I asked him if he would help me with these assessments, he was so willing, and he would come and he would always ask, Mrs. Coombs, are we going to do the test today, and can I help you, and can we look over my scores and stuff? He just has such a passion for learning, and that makes my job teaching really easy. So I really appreciate that, and you have a very wonderful son. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the assessments that I did with Joey. We did 3 running records, and basically with the running record, he reads a book, and I track his errors and different patterns that he has, and this is for me to know. The running record helps me figure out his accuracy and patterns that he has with his reading. I also did 3 retelling assessments. So after we read the books, I would ask him questions and he would just tell me about the book. So this helped me assess his comprehension skills. I also did a Burke reading interview with him. There's 10 questions on this assessment, and basically it just helped me learn more about his attitudes and perceptions regarding his reading as well as the reading of others. We also did 2 writing sample rating scales. So I took 3 individual writing samples of his, and I just assessed it on message quality and style, several different things I assessed it on, and just got to see his writing tendencies and his strengths and weaknesses with that. We did a sentence dictation test where I read him 2 sentences and he wrote the sentences down. Basically, it was just for me to see if he was hearing all of the sounds in the words. Not so much that he was spelling the words correctly, but just if he was hearing those sounds that were in the words. And the last assessment that I did with him is the primary spelling inventory. So there's 26 words that they can spell, and it just helps me see what level of spelling they're on, what areas I need to work with him more on. And yeah, he did really great with all of those. So I do want to just kind of talk about 3 areas of strength that I noticed with these assessments with Joey. He was so great with all of them. He has so many strengths, and every time with the assessments, I was just blown away by his capabilities and the things that he can and loves to do, and he loves to learn. So that made it really easy to do these assessments. The first strength that I noticed with Joey was with his running record. So like I said, the running record is where we took 3 books, or we took a book and then he read it, and I tracked his errors and other tendencies that he has. And with the running record, we're trying to find his accuracy, and also if he's reading at an instructional level or an independent level, or if the book is maybe a little bit too hard, that could be frustrating for him. His strength is the books that we read this time were all within his independent and instructional levels, which is exactly where we want them to be. That means that he was reading with over 90% accuracy on all of the books that we read. So that is really awesome. It's really important that students are reading within those levels. We don't want them in the frustration level because they get frustrated and don't want to keep learning and reading. So this helped me see his fluency rate and know that the books that I am having him read in class really are on his level. So this was a strength of his, as well as an opportunity for me to make sure that I have him doing the right things. So some recommendations of things that you guys can do at home to help him keep this strong. Obviously, every night Joey will have some books to bring home for homework and stuff, and just pleasure reading. And I just want you guys to listen to him as he reads. And if you notice that he's making, between 5 and 6 errors for the smaller books, I just want you to kind of stop him, because if he's making more errors than that, it means that it's probably, the book is probably in his frustration level. And for pleasure reading, we for sure we don't want children to read in their frustration level anytime, but for pleasure reading, we really want him to be very successful at that, which means that we want him in his independent reading level. So if you notice that he's making more than 5 to 6 errors in any of his books, just have him switch and get a different book. He'll have like 3 to 4 a night, I think. But if you would just put a note on the book or books that maybe he started to read and was struggling with, just that way I know the next day at school which books he was able to get through, and also so I can work with him on those books in class. So that way I can pull them into my more instructional level books for him. Also, to help Joey with his, keep his accuracy and scores up, at school, I always do guided reading groups. So I want Joey to keep progressing and improving his skills through these guided reading groups. So all of the books that we will use in those groups will be instructional reading level books. I'll continue to perform the running records on him so that way I can make sure that the books that we're using in class with him, as well as the books I'm sending home, are in that independent and instructional level. I just really want him to have successful interactions with the books in class and at home, because I know that's really important. Another strength that I saw through these assessments with Joey was his retelling. The retelling assessment was for me to judge, or for me to be able to see his comprehension skills, and if he was, just able to read the words, or if he was really trying to read and understand the text. So one thing I noticed is he was very good at identifying the main idea and most of the key details in the books. We had some questions that I would ask him, and sometimes he needed a little bit of help recalling certain information. But overall, he was very successful at retelling the stories that we read. And obviously, comprehension is always our goal in class. Even though he's in first grade, we really want him to understand the books that he's reading. So at home, something you can do is, as Joey's finishing up his homework for the night, as he's putting his stuff away, just ask him what the book was about, and try to encourage him to include a beginning, middle, and end in the book. That's kind of hard when some of the books he reads are nonfiction, because there isn't like a set or defined beginning, middle, and end. So if he has books like that, just ask him to, tell a sequence of the book, so that way you can see, if he's actually reading it, but it will also give him an opportunity to practice those retelling skills and the comprehension, because retelling is the first part of comprehension. In my classroom, to continue to support his retelling, I want to introduce him to some easy chapter books. I don't know if you're familiar with the Frog and Toad books, but I think that those are very good books to start with. During the Burke interview, I noticed that Joey, I asked him, who he thought good readers were, and he, listed some kids off in the class, and when I asked him why, he said it's because they can read chapter books. And Joey doesn't have a negative view of himself as a reader, but he's not currently reading chapter books, and so most of the chapter books I have in my class would probably be in a frustration level for Joey, but I think the Frog and Toad books would be a good introduction for him to see, I can read these books, but to still keep that retelling and comprehension the goal, I'll still perform these retelling tasks. So I'll have him read the Frog and Toad books, in our individual reading time, or even with me, and then I'll ask him those retelling questions to see if they are on that instructional independent level. And so he can have more practice retelling the stories. And if he struggles with that, I'll be able to see and can adjust. I have some other options for books that I want to use too. Joey had so many strengths, but like I said, I'm just going to talk about 3. So the last strength that I noticed through these assessments is the primary spelling inventory. Joey was very successful with the primary spelling inventory. I give him a list of words, I say them out loud, he spells them, and then I assess it after the fact if he, got a lot of the feature points. Is he finding the initial and final consonants? Is he getting his short vowels, long vowels, digraphs, things like that? And Joey was very successful with finding the initial and final consonants, the short vowels, and he got every digraph that we made it through, and almost all of the blends that we got through. So I felt very confident with that. This assessment helped me see that Joey is in the within word, or the early within word pattern stage. So he's right around where he needs to be. He only spelled 7 words correctly, but he did get 38 of the 56 feature points, which is really impressive. So One of the words we did was shine, and he, got the first digraph, the sh, and the consonant sound of the n, but he just had a y in there, and so it was really fun to see how, even though he wasn't spelling the words correctly, he was listening for those feature points of the beginning and ending consonants and things like that. So I was very happy. At home, to help Joey continue to improve these skills and strengths that he has, while you're reading with him, just have him identify different spelling patterns. So for example, this week we've been working on the CH digraph. So while he's reading at home, just ask him if while he's reading he can identify words that have the CH digraph in them. That will really help to solidify in his mind the things that we've been learning in school, and also just give him more practice. This will help him be able to recognize the spelling of those words, so that way he can keep up those strong skills that he's developed. At school, I have a center. Well, I have centers that are always changing, but I really want, there's a few different students in the class who would benefit from this, and so I'm going to create a center that within it they will sort objects, pictures, and word cards according to the phonics concept that we're working on. So for example, with the digraphs and blends, I'll have a bunch of different word cards, and for the center they need to sort them and figure out where they go. I really want to continue to give Joey practice with these skills that he's developed, and so I'll definitely use the center for that, and he'll get my support at school and your support at home. So those are the main areas that I wanted to talk about with his strengths. Joey is so awesome. I do have some areas of things that I saw, that maybe we can work on to improve Joey, to get him, just a little higher than he currently is. So with the writing sample that I did, I actually did this assessment twice. So I took 6 independent writing pieces of Joey's, and I assessed them. And the biggest thing I realized and noticed during this was that Joey, most of the time, and this probably is my fault for not giving him the opportunity to do this, but most of his writing is copied. So it's prompts that I've given them that he has to, that he's copied into his little journal or things like that. And so he doesn't have a ton of opportunities. I guess he hasn't had a ton of opportunities to record his own ideas, which made his writing sample scores a little bit lower than I want him to be. So something that I'm going to work on at home is to give Joey, and all the students really, more opportunities to investigate and explore the writing trait of ideas. That's something that I really want to reinforce, is that Joey has the opportunity to record his own thoughts and his own ideas rather than just, a prompt that I've given them. And so obviously I'll have like little mini lessons about what the writing process and writing trait of ideas is. But to do this, probably every other day at school, or maybe, twice a week, I'm going to put 2 pictures up on the board from books that we've read throughout the week or throughout the school year, and I want to encourage the students to write an alternate ending to the story. I think this is a really creative way to help the students record their own ideas. It's helpful because we've already read the book, so they know how it ends. So they have somewhere to go. So they see, oh, well, this is how it ended. How can I make it different? But it really gives the students the opportunity to think about it in their mind and make those changes. Something that you can do at home to continue to help him, record his own ideas is give him an opportunity to write a letter to somebody in the family. I know you guys have lots of family all over the state and even the country, and so I think it would be really fun for Joey to be able to write him a letter about anything, really. Obviously, he may need some guidance and stuff, and so you as parents can sit down and brainstorm with him of what he wants to write and things he wants to include. But I really want to make sure that he is recording his own ideas. So during this brainstorming session, ask him questions about what he wants to include, rather than just giving him, here's what you should include. So just trying to encourage him to use his own thoughts and ideas. So the last area of need that I identified with Joey also came from the spelling inventory that I did, but is with the long vowel patterns. And this is typical of this age range, that they are kind of struggling with those long vowel sounds. But one thing I noticed with Joey is of the 7 words that we got to that had the long vowel patterns, he only got 1 right. And so for me, that made me see, that Joey needs extra help on this, which is totally fine. And I have some suggestions of things you can do at home too, and things I'll do at school. So at school, I have a writing center, and I want to make this writing center a little more guided. So do a guided reading group one day and a guided writing center the next day. And so during this guided writing center, I'll work with the students to create a word wall of words that contain the long vowel pattern. Each day, I'll give the students 5 new words, and then just give them lots of opportunities to practice writing and reading and saying those words. So first, we'll have them say it out loud, then they can write it on their own. Then we will try to identify those words in a book. And I'll also be able to I'll also have them write a sentence about those words. I think this will just give Joey and the other students more opportunities to engage with these words. I think at this stage, that's the biggest thing, is that they don't have the opportunity, or they don't have the repetition of opportunities to engage with these words that have the long vowel pattern. So I'm definitely going to work on that in a writing center at school. But something you can do at home is there's a really great website called kidspell.com, and I came across it recently, but they have a lot of really great spelling games. And so one that I recommend is when you go onto that website, just search long vowel word hop. And in this game, it's totally interactive, but the point of it obviously is to identify the words that have the long vowel word pattern. And there's a little frog, and he just hops along, this little muddy thing. So it's really engaging as far as the game aspect goes. But I think this will help Joey identify, first of all, the sounds of the long vowel pattern, and then the spelling of it. So that's something that you can do at home. And he doesn't need to spend a ton of time on that, 5 to 10 minutes max a day, or not even a day, every other day or 2 or 3 times a week. Just, hop on there and let him practice to identify those words. I think that would be really beneficial for him. Overall, Joey's amazing. I love having him in my class. He's so sweet, so kind, and so helpful. And I'm really glad that we were able to make, this video conference work. I know it's kind of hard with all of our schedules, but I really do appreciate you taking the time out. If you have any questions, please email me or call me. I'm pretty accessible. I'll go ahead and type up those recommendations that I talked about for you to do at home, and I'll email those to you so that way you can practice that. And if you have questions about how to implement those, or if maybe they're not working out, just let me know, and we can definitely collaborate and see how to make that better. But overall, like I said, if you have questions, just give me a call or email, and I'll be happy to take care of that. So have a great night, and tell Joey I say hi. All right. There you go, Dr. Rimmer. I don't know if you noticed all my Star Wars stuff up here. It's actually my husband's, but anyway, hope you enjoy the video.